We had a web panel that displayed customer information and allowed filtering the information displayed by customer's full name. If we now want to see under the grid the total amount spent by all customers together, we'll have to calculate it and display it in a variable, since no attribute in the database has this information. We then insert in a table a new variable. Total flight prices. Based on the attribute flight final price. Where do we assign a value to this variable? When the grid is loaded, the total amount spent by that customer must be added to the variable before loading each line. The event that occurs for each line and before loading it into the grid is the load event. Therefore, it is in this event where the additions must be made. Every time a new grid line is loaded, the price of the flights of the customer loaded in that instance must be added to the value that variable had. Let's see what this looks like. F5. In the first place, note that the variable is an input variable. We already mentioned that, if nothing is modified, those located in the fixed part will be input variables. However, in this case we want to have an output variable, so we'll need to indicate that. F5. We'll add 30,450. If we now filter by Hemingway, whose flights amount to 4,150, it should display 4,150. However, the new amount of 4,150 was added to the previous amount of 30,450. We need to set the variable to 0 before the grid starts to load, every time it's loaded again. The best time to do this is during the refresh event, which, similarly to the load event, may be programmed. Note that the order in which events appear written here is irrelevant. In fact, we've just seen that the refresh event is ran before the grid is loaded, and then, after that, the code written within the load event is ran for each line. In the opposite order they appear. Let's press F5. Now, when filtering for instance by B, the correct amount is displayed. This is achieved because the refresh takes place, setting the variable to 0 and leading to accessing the database. Here, for each record in the table to be loaded, a load event is produced which calculates the value of the flight prices variable and displays it in the grid, which also increases the value of the variable total flight prices. Once the 3 loads are executed, this will have its final value.